So there I was, in horrible pain from tendinitis and thinking my life was over, and I was supposed to fly by myself for the first time to another country. But when I got off the plane and met up with Josh and the Star Switcher and Nick, everything suddenly felt right. Like finally being in the same room as my friends and witnessing one of the most incredible little places on Earth, I kind of came out of my fog and just enjoyed where I was. I had no idea what tendinitis really meant for me, but the experience in Halifax was the first step to realizing that I was going to be okay. Waking up every morning to take the real-life ferry twins across the harbor, passing by the real Benjamin Bridge, and gradually approaching the real Theodore Tugboat himself was surreal, to say the least. One of my favorite moments was the first time we went across. As we got close to Theodore, a very small boy called out his name. And it's easy to think that Theodore hasn't made it past the 90s babies, so it was wonderful to see him still connecting with such a young audience. But we didn't waste too much time getting caught up in the moment because it was time to fulfill the childhood dream.
Did you guys all hear Theodore say hi? Hi, Theodore!
So anyway, the ride on Theodore was great. He basically did a little loop around the middle of the harbor. I didn't take very much video, honestly, because of my wrists, but also because I'd actually ridden Theodore Too before. He came down to Boston for one day in 2009, so this wasn't my first time aboard him. And I just decided to sit back and enjoy the experience. So after a great ride on Theodore, we decided to head over to the Maritime Museum of the Atlantic. They had this really beautiful macaw named Merlin there. But what they didn't have was the Theodore models. It figures, the time we come, the exhibit is being refurbished. The buildings were there, with the lights working for the first time in probably 20 years, but the boats were still off being cleaned. I remember Josh was really bummed. I mean, he came all this way just to see the models, and he actually had to leave sooner than the rest of us, so there was no chance they'd be back on the display before he had to leave. So, because of the fantastic folks at the Maritime Museum, we were able to go back and see the tugs. These are the pictures you've been seeing on Twitter, and they were stunning. I knew they'd be big. I actually used to have an RC tugboat that was about the size of Theodore, but it still blew my mind, and the colors were unbelievable. Without the heavy mask of videotape and with the cleaning the museum did, the models looked absolutely frozen in time. As a bonus, we got to see Funday and Bluenose, who aren't usually on the display. The last time these were actually seen was on eBay all those years ago, and they certainly look better now than they did then. After the museum, we walked over to Citadel Hill to see the old town clock, which was visible on Theodore, and we saw a few other sites like Barrington Street, and with seeing the models so up close and seeing real ships go by the real Great Ocean Dock in the real big harbor, it was hard for us to believe this was actually happening.
Alrighty, take a seat, everyone.
The next day we took a ride on the Harbor Hopper, which is an amphibious truck that gives tours of the city and the harbor. And it was a real treat seeing this cargo ship with the little tug. As you can probably tell by now, with Theodore and the ferries and the huge ships, the big harbor was really putting on a show for us.
Wow, folks, I've never seen so many different kinds of ships when we've been on the harbor hopper today. Usually we have a lot of sailboats, but this is pretty cool, so take a peek around here when we're going by.
When we got back to the room, we got out all the rare toys we'd brought, including 6 bath toy Georges, basically to set a record of the most in one spot ever. Naturally, other antics ensued.
Wait, someone rotate the Thomas over there. Far away across the sea. And he just doesn't care.
Another day in paradise, and we got this great view of Theodore heading off on another tour. Today was sort of a rest day. We picked up Jake from the airport the day before, and so today we went to Walmart to get him an air mattress and stock up on some snacks. Oh, and the Star Switcher had a Canadian Big Mac. The next day was a bit of a roller coaster. We said goodbye to Josh at the airport, picked up our snazzy rental car, picked up Gio from the airport, drove over MacDonald Bridge blasting Tom Sawyer, and then drove for hours to visit Peggy's Cove, which inspired Kaylee's Cove on Theodore, as well as visiting the seaside town of Lunenburg.
Sing with us, you fuckhead.
I don't even know the fucking song.
Oh, and we stopped by the Murphy's gift shop to buy Theodore stuff for like the millionth time. I swear, Star Switcher single-handedly created economic boom shopping at this store.
It's toxic.
So it was getting close to the end of our trip, and I just still couldn't believe I was even here in this amazing, beautiful place where Theodore Tugboat never actually left, and where I finally met some of my best friends. To be honest, I almost didn't go on this trip. The day before my flight, I could barely open a door without experiencing a world of pain. And I didn't sleep that night. I just kind of laid there with tight braces on both of my wrists, thinking I was about to miss yet another amazing thing in my life. I still haven't fully recovered, but finally being with my friends in the friendliest harbor in the world, I'd say it gave me a good head start.
Well, pleasure meeting you, Jay. Pleasure meeting you, man. So long, space cowboy.
Hi, Gio.
But now, the ultimate question. Would Star Switcher's eighth wonder of the world, packed full of Nova Scotia's economy, be under the free 50-pound weight limit?
Alright, you ready?
Yep,
Here we go.
The moment of truth.
What? How?
39!
Oh, is that in pounds or kilometers? Kilograms. That is in pounds. What the hell? That's only 40 pounds.
Hey.
What?
Well, no one's gonna complain about that.
Sweet.